All right, welcome. This is no longer Aluminum Tarot. This is actually now Crucible Tarot. And I'll give an explanation about this and the reason for the name change. But long story short, the too long didn't read version is that I wanted something that resonated a little bit more with what I'm trying to create and the ethos of this channel. So that way I can feel a little bit more personable with this type of reading. And with the whole aluminum, I think there's so many channels now that have the love and light message that I want to kind of distance myself away from that, because my channel is not love and light all the time, at least not in the traditional sense that a lot of the kind of new agey types like to speak about. And for me, I just want something a bit more authentic, but more so I'll give an explainer about that a bit later on. Anyways, order of the day is, if you like what you see here on this channel, please be sure to give a like, share, subscribe, ding the notification bell so you don't miss any updates from future postings. Also be vigilant against any scammers about. You know exactly kind of how they operate on YouTube. And yeah, support the channel in any way that you can. Basically, everything that you do that I mentioned just previously, that's going to be a big win. And I have been seeing a bit of the growth on the channel, so I'm very, very appreciative of that. We have hit over 300 subscribers, which is great, considering that I've just gotten this thing back up and running again. So much appreciated to everyone that has been supporting the channel to date. And I will be as consistent as I can be with the content, so that way it can drive the algorithm. That is the primary thing that I'm focusing on at this moment. That said, we're going to be reading for the sign of Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. We're going to read the overall energy for June 2026. It's not necessarily what's going to take place the entire month, but it will be about what you need to know right now kind of energy. Like, this is the snapshot of your energy at this particular moment in your life for the month of June 2026. So let's get straight into it. Virgo, you're up. Before I get started, 3 decks I'm using for this reading. The first is the Angelarium deck, which is the Oracle of Emanations. This is an Oracle deck, which has been created by Peter Moorbacher and Eli, how do you say her name? Minaya. So the two of them working together, they have illustrated some really, really incredible Oracle cards, and I think it's one of my favorites. The next we have is the Moonology deck. This is by Yasmin Bolin. This is all over the YouTube tarot chart. God, let me get my words out. Tarot card readers on YouTube. A lot of them are using this deck, and it's an Oracle deck that works with the cycles of the moon and gives its messages in that manner. But another one that I want to share that is very important to me is the Warrior of Love Tarot. This is created by a woman named Luna Marie. Excuse me. And in this, she has actually been appearing in places like Watkins Books, which is where I met her when I bought this deck. And this is quite well illustrated, a lot of bright colors added to it. And she's a very nice person, really, really knowledgeable about the tarot. So I'll leave her information in the description box below so that you can find out a little bit more about her and what she does. So that said, we're going to go straight into the reading for Virgo. We're going to just talk a little bit about the energies that are taking place for this time. And we'll give you a no frills kind of reading about this, so that we can make sure that, it stays true to the ethos of this channel. I am a no BS reader. And furthermore, if you get good information, great. If you get a piss poor reading, we're going to talk about that anyway. So let's go ahead and begin. We start with the Angelarium message for today. We're talking about Hazmed, and this is the Angel of Annihilation. Now, when you see the concept of annihilation, destruction, these are types of angels, and this is something that I've really been enjoying learning about, like the different archangels, the different types of angels, in Judeo-Christian and Enochian text. And these types of destroyer angels are called the Mashit, which is the types of angels that are needed to kind of do the dirty work for the divine one when it's necessary. So you could say, for example, Samael is an example of that. We have psychopomps, which are more like Azrael, whereas Samael is more like a Mashit. He is the one that kind of fucks things up, and Azrael is kind of the guy that cleans up the mess afterwards. So essentially, when we look at this, we're looking at a time in which you are we're looking at a time in which you are focusing on the structures that have been breaking down in your specific life. And with this, we do see and we notice a lot of these different sharp angles. And so with this, you can almost see as if it's like falling stars, or if it's like shards of glass that have basically, been annihilated, been destroyed and distraught. This is a very foreboding character here. And it's not the type of one that has like a halo that is behind the head. It's one where it surrounds or encompasses the head. And it's almost like it's not a title that he wears. It's a title that surrounds him. When you are destroyed, everything changes. And with this particular type of mashit here, I feel, and what I'm getting from this, is a shattering of your world. When we have different things like this, we have the angles of such, especially ones at 45-degree angles. We notice that there's a massive takedown, whatever has been taking place within your life, that no longer works, no longer serves its purpose. One thing I can tell you about 45-degree angles and like angular movements here, which you can see clearly throughout the card. When you study martial arts and when you're studying like judo or jiu-jitsu or what I studied Hapkido a long time ago back in Korea, you have 45-degree movements that take out your opponent. And the reason for this is the simplest way to go from the top to the bottom. And even if you were to look at certain things like, there's the symbol, the fall of Lucifer from heaven sometimes, you sometimes see like other symbols like, I don't want to say it too much because I don't know how YouTube's going to react to this, but the SWAT sticker, which is originally at 90-degree angles, signaling kind of square energy of stability, of harmony of the four elements. When turned at an angle, as used within the Third Reich, it is meant to be an act of aggression in many ways. So 45-degree angles and angular movements in warfare signal a destruction of something, an attack, or a kind of like a takeout of something. It's like the easiest way to take out an opponent is through a 45-degree angle. So I'm not sure if any of you study martial arts or anything like that, but that's something that I've come to learn from previous studies with it a long time ago. But that said, I'm seeing that in Hazmed in this card. Now, moving on to the next card, we have look at the bigger picture. And we have the full moon in Sagittarius. Now, when we need to look at the bigger picture, if something has been destroyed in your life, or if something is changing rapidly, you have to see the bigger picture and to understand why precisely that is taking place. So with the full moon in Sagittarius, Sagittarians, me being a Sagittarius ascendant, we tend to look at the full picture, and then sometimes we focus on the details later on, but the bigger picture allows us to have an expansive philosophical look towards things. And with this is accumulation of information and things that have been taking place leading up to this cycle that reaches its apex with the full moon. So perhaps if you've been going through difficulties, if you have had to destroy certain ways of thinking, if you have gone through the destruction of a job or a relationship or other things like that, then it is quite possible that you have to see the bigger picture as to why this all took place. And with that Sagittarius oftentimes, when it comes after Scorpio, you go from Scorpio, Sagittarius, and then on to Capricorn. Sagittarius represents how our lives respond to crises, which normally take place in the Scorpionic or the 8th house. And Sagittarius is the one that is able to laugh off the madness. Sometimes see the bigger picture as to why certain things happen. So that's kind of what I'm getting here. This almost feels very Scorpionic, especially with the purple and the dark hues around it. And then this is Sagittarius, which follows right after it. So if you've experienced a bit of a tower moment, then it's perhaps insinuating to you that, things will be okay and that you can move forward. Now, what we have here, in the recent past, you had this card, which is the Page of Swords. The Page of Swords in the reverse talks about, it can be about a person who spies. Like, I know a lot of tarot card readers say that, oh, it's about someone who's spying on you through the internet. I personally think it's a load of bullshit. And it can be one aspect of the Page of Swords reverse, but the Page of Swords reverse is someone who wields their words in a hurtful or a caustic manner, a lot of vitriol. This is a person who's immature with their words, or potentially not clearly using their intellect in order to achieve something or to understand something. So maybe something has not become clear to you, and you're walking away from that lack of clarity because 8 of Cups. Now, this can go one of two ways. Maybe you have been left behind in something, and so now you're trying to make sense of it. It's not really clear at the moment, but it will be in the future because it's the Page. Maybe something has not been communicated clearly to you, so you've decided, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm going to go walk away. This is no longer going to be a part of my life. I'm eliminating this, getting rid of this, so that way I can see the bigger picture in all of this. Maybe the bigger picture has not come to you yet, but it will soon. So we're moving on to the next bit, where we have the 5 of Wands in the reverse. So one of the other signs, I think it was Gemini, had the 5 of Wands in the upright, causing one of their issues. This is 5 of Wands in the reverse, which is talking about an ending to conflict, drama, and difficult times. And the reason for all of this is you kind of understand that when we have the 5 of Cups and the 3 of Cups, as you can see here in these two cards, when these are side by side, that totals to the 8 of Cups that you had in the recent past. Maybe if you're dealing with people and the communication is poor, or you don't feel like there's an intellectual rapport with the person that you're speaking to or the groups of people that you're speaking to, you're finding yourself that your social circles are disappointing. Maybe the people that you surround yourself with, the people that you deal with on a day-to-day basis, your emotional support has been disappointing. And perhaps like in the case of the 3 of Cups, you may have felt that the people around you don't really support you emotionally. They may work behind your back. They may not really be helping you. In another sense, if you have dealt with a situation like this, you are using support groups to kind of help you to overcome heartbreak and disappointment from the past as well. 5 of Cups normally shows a person who is focusing on the 3 of Cups that have been spilt in front of them, whereas there are 2 cups behind them, and if they just go backwards, they turn around, they can get those Two of Cups and go to the castle, which gives them their stability back. This then in turn plays out the scene of the Six of Cups, where they can replay and think about the past and understand why things took place anyways. So that said, in the past you had the Eight of Cups, now it's been split down. It's almost like it's being broken down to the Three of Cups and the Five of Cups. Both of these talk about Mercury in Cancer. So for these cards, one of the reasons why I like this tarot deck is because they have the modalities for each of the different cards. So this is Mercury in Cancer, Three of Cups, communicating and spending time with people on a heartfelt in a heartfelt scenario. However, with the Five of Cups, we have the Mars in Scorpio. This is when we go through a very traumatic situation, similar to the Three of Swords, but this can be something that definitely broke your heart. And you can see that the woman here, this mermaid, she's ensnared in her own in a net. Basically, she's doing her best to try to get out of it. The net is partially torn, so she could easily escape. All she has to do is move backwards and move forwards, and she can tumble out of that net. But she's just kind of sat there, focusing on the fact that she's been caught, rather than, leaving the net, which she could easily do. Similar to the Eight of Swords in many ways, where they feel wrapped up in a situation, but they're loosely bound. And this is at the emotional level I'm feeling this, rather than at the intellectual level. So what it's telling you is that in order to overcome this conflict, possible conflict of interest with the people that are around you in your social circles, or in your family, or in your previous relationships, or things of that nature, it's important for you to, number one, lean on the support of people around you to help you out, and additionally understand how the situation really is. Be a bit more objective, so that way you can understand how you can remove yourself from the feelings of negative emotions. Because again, in the Five of Cups, they're focusing on the Three of Cups in front of them instead of looking at the Two of Cups behind them. And so you're going to have to focus on love. And this is going to be self-love. I don't see this as you needing a person, but if you've gone through a difficult circumstance, you need to reunite your head and your heart, your hopes and your dreams. Potentially, you need to start looking at things that you can connect to that can build you back up in confidence. In addition, potentially, you're going to have to sacrifice focusing your emotional energy on the external. So the Three of Cups is the expansion of emotion and emotional interactions with people. This is almost like telling you to get back to basics, so that way you can focus less on what's going on around you, focus more on the things within you, the confliction that you've got within yourself, or within aspects of yourself, head, heart, and mind, body and soul, spirit, whatever you want to say, whatever the contradiction is, you want to reconcile that. Moving on to the next part, it looks like you will be doing that. So you have the Fool here. You have the Fool, which you can see has the Uranian energy here. They have labeled it clearly as Uranus. And the reason for that is the Four of Wands in the reverse. You want a change of something. Now, if you felt that a situation has been disappointing, sometimes the best way to get out of a difficult situation is to just wreck the entire thing and move forward. Now, I've got stories about that, in my own life. Some of the things I've experienced, moving abroad and then finally settling in another country. I essentially I had to deal with all the chaos of 2008, of course, in the United States. And then after moving abroad, living in so many countries, it kind of completely shattered the old person that I was. And it was essential to understand which direction I needed to take myself in life. The person that I was in 2008 versus the person I am in 2026 are completely different. I had to basically destroy myself in order to find myself again, which is indicative of a lot of the symbology that I use for this channel for Crucible Tarot. Just a little snapshot into it. I speak about the kintsugi sun, or like the art of kintsugi, which is the shattering of the old way of doing something, or when you find that yourself are broken and broken into hundreds of pieces. In kintsugi, the Japanese would put those pieces back together, but they would use gold to resolve that issue, or to fix the pottery that had been broken, or to repair it. And then what that would do, not only would it strengthen the bowl or the vase or whatever it is, but it would also add an immeasurable amount of value to that piece of pottery. And that's exactly what we deal with when we go through difficult situations in our own life. It's important for us to understand why we go through these situations and why we have to destroy or annihilate things in our own lives in order for us to really, really get into the basics of who we are, where we need to go, and we strip everything off and we become vulnerable to the future that we're trying to create that is going to be a lot more conducive. It's basically the tower energy. When things are going wrong, when you built things on a very shoddy foundation, it's time to wreck it. And then that way you can build on top of it again with a much more sturdy foundation and something that is going to be way long lasting. For example, in Pudong, in Shanghai, one of the things I heard about from one of my architect friends when I was living there is that a lot of the skyscrapers are, well, not a lot, but there's one or two that are built on foundations that seem to be solid initially. And during the period of rapid development in China, they built them on foundations. But because Pudong it used to be a river basin essentially, and it's along the riverside, it was a fishing village, for many centuries before it became a massive metropolis. The buildings are now sinking in some parts, so they have to occasionally, work on engineering structural, reconfiguration so that way they can keep the building from sinking. The same thing happens in San Francisco. There's one of the towers there where it is now leaning to a degree where the engineers need to find a way to sort it out. Otherwise, there's going to be a Jenga moment in San Francisco if they don't figure out a long-term solution. So that's kind of what it is. Sometimes annihilation and destruction is necessary to clear the path for something better, number one, to be built, and additionally to prevent the destruction of other things around it that could potentially incur severe damage. So instead of having that skyscraper fall down and knock over a bunch of other skyscrapers and potentially kill hundreds of thousands, hundreds, if not thousands of people, it's better to just blow that tower up and just build something sturdier on it. It's just pretty much a no-brainer at that point. Now, because you're doing that, what you're noticing is that, life is going to become a lot easier once you get rid of that old energy. And additionally, you have the Two of Cups. We were speaking about the Two of Cups. You just need to turn around and get that Two of Cups. Now, I'm going to show you something really cool because this is how the tarot works. You're in the Five of Cups energy, of course. You're focusing on the Three of Cups. In your outcome, you have the Two of Cups. These are the things that you have to focus on in order for you to go to the Tower, and then that's going to be able to give you a firmer, more secure foundation. So it's amazing that that came out, because additionally, we have the Three and the Five of Cups. The Eight of Cups was in your past. The Two of Cups that you need to focus on is in your future. So this is a very synchronous reading that we've got here that I find quite amazing. Now, looking at this, we have the Two of Cups because the Sun. Now, when we spoke about authenticity and that we need to destroy things so that they're on a firmer foundation, but additionally, it's going to help you to bring things to light. Remember in the beginning we said we had the Page of Swords in the reverse. Things are not very clear. It's very difficult for you to see the way forward. And so if you've left something, it's like you're leaving, but you're going through a fog in order to get to the next stage. Well, the Sun comes out in the very end of all of this. So now what you're seeing is that things that were not clear, things that were muddy, things that were foggy, clouded, whether that was judgment or a situation or an outcome, the Sun comes out to make all of that clear, to light your path forward, and to give you that reconnection between the Two of Cups, the head and heart, the mind and body, the body and spirit. And it's going to give you a newfound perspective and understanding of what it is that you need to do facing the future, which is going to give you a better, a sense of security, mentally, physically, and emotionally, that is going to help you to bring about your most authentic self, to release the baggage from the past, and again, to see the bigger picture as to why all of this took place. So it's amazing how that all works out. I like watching people who do magic tricks and, it's sleight of hand in that case. There is no sleight of hand with the tarot. I lay the cards out, and this is what they tell us. But then there's this synchronicity that takes place between the cards, the different themes, the numerology of all of it, and it weaves like a song. And that's what I love about the tarot. This is the reason why I practice it. It's not simply just clicks and likes and shit, because, it's been 3 years since I've started this channel. And I've stopped and started due to issues in my life. But during those periods in which I stopped, or when I was kind of going through my own stuff, it was because I was having my life completely destroyed. And I remember that period. It was the Uranus transiting Taurus. So that was my finances, my stability, and all those things, my possessions. I got rid of a ton of stuff. I got rid of multiple homes, not to say I owned multiple homes, but I had to move quite frequently. Finally settled into my place now, and touch wood, things stay as good as they are today. I think the Uranus in Taurus transit's finally over, so this is where I need to be now. Additionally, when I see a lot of that, some of the annihilation and some of the destruction that I found, it's I lost a lot of friends, whether those friends were they moved on with their lives because we just found ourselves being compatible and grew apart. Some may have died. It's not easy when you have to go through all of these things, but I had to keep the bigger picture in there, that Sagittarian aspect of me that I really had to make sure that I was understanding throughout the entire process of that. Number one, things will be okay. So that's the Sagittarian optimism that takes place. But additionally, as I proceeded with things became clear. The universe, the divine one, was guiding me to the place that I needed to go. He was destroying my foundation so that I could finally get to the place where I could plant it and be more stable and be at peace for the first time in years. And when I was going through it, I was like the Page of Swords in reverse. I didn't know what the fuck was going to take place or what was going to happen. It was a very, very difficult time, emotionally, psychologically, physically damaging. But if it weren't for a few things, the universe, my family, my motorcycle, I would not have survived. I literally would not have survived. Or I would be in a much darker place. But I do think Hazmed, as it, appeared in my life, because it destroyed all the things I didn't need anymore, the things that were illusory. And that's what people have to understand. Things are not going to be a bed of roses, but we have to learn that when we go through that crucible, we are able to come out of it much more pure, refined, alchemized, and most importantly, stable. So, good grief. I have been ranting and raving for 31 minutes. I'm going to end it here. Thanks again. This has been the Crucible Tarot. Thanks so much for your love and support that you've shown over the years. Over 300, subscribers, so that's amazing. I'm going to keep it coming for you all. And additionally, just try to stay as consistent as I can on my end. I'm going to leave you with the new saying that I always have for this channel instead of love and light, because let's not delude ourselves into thinking that love and light is always going to be there for us. Sometimes we have to go through the darkness. That is the theme that I try to hammer in on this. And this is not a very popular theme. As you can see, I'm not talking about, your ex is coming back and, bitches ain't shit and all that stuff. A lot of the kind of tabloid tarot that I see taking place around here. It's not for my audience. It's not the kind of communication that I want to give for this channel. I'll just leave you with the phrase, Viam gevura ambulo. I walk the path of severity, courage, bravery. This is the message that I want to engender with the audiences here at Crucible Tarot. Thanks so much, and until next time, bye now.